sat on was torn into pieces, causing a chill to run down his spine. No, no, no. I should slap my mouth. I should slap my mouth. It's a black tortoise, not a turtle. The skinny man's expression also changed quickly, and he hurriedly changed the way he addressed the skinny man. This way of addressing the skinny man sounded very pleasing to Little Black's ears. The turtle thought he was magnanimous, so he did not argue with the skinny man. He only stretched out his claws and gestured a few times, indicating that the skinny man should never say anything wrong again. After seeing Little Black leave, the skinny man patted his chest and sat down again. The breakfast that Bai Shi brought was very delicious. Normally, the skinny man would have to weigh the money in his pocket, but now that there was free money, he naturally wouldn't refuse. However, as he ate, the skinny man seemed to remember something and patted his head. I forgot about the business. I came to look for you because I want to ask you something. Have you seen Fatty? The sky was beginning to brighten, and there were only a few people coming and going on the streets. There were hawkers who got up early, laborers, and so on. The Fatty looked left and right, and after confirming that there was no one following him, he let out a long sigh of relief. He arrived in front of the city lord's estate in a flash. Wait, who are you? The Fatty had just arrived in front of the city lord's estate when he was stopped by the guards. The Fatty opened his mouth and was about to say something when a person walked out from the main door and hurriedly pushed the two guards away. You guys have no business here. Seriously, you don't stop those who should be stopped, but you stop those who shouldn't be stopped. At that time, when Lin Bai came, why didn't he see that the guards being so adamant? The two guards could only huddle to the side, not daring to say a word. Lin Bai came to the city lord's estate to make a big fuss, causing the city lord's estate to lose face. As guards, they were naturally in the wrong in this matter. However, they still had to ridicule in their hearts. That Lin Bai's strength, was it something that the rest of us could withstand? After that, Fatty was invited into the city lord's estate. Hee, I hope you won't blame them. After what happened to Lin Bai last time, these people are still a little sensitive, so now that they see him, they all stop him. However, it doesn't matter. I believe that after this incident, they won't dare to do it again. That person winked at Fatty, almost saying, I hope you can put in a few good words for me in front of the city lord. This person was the manager under the city lord. He was in charge of the household chores and was also close to the city lord. Naturally, he knew the relationship between the Fatty and the city lord. He guessed that this Fatty might be the new favorite next to the city lord, so he had the intention to chat with him. Cough, cough, that's only natural. I won't hold it against them. The Fatty puffed out his chest and felt that it was bright. He followed that person into the city lord's estate. What's the matter? When the city lord saw the Fatty coming over, he lowered his eyes and used the lid of the bowl to pick up some tea leaves. Then, he washed them and tasted them. City lord, I know Lin Bai's movements. The Fatty looked left and right. He covered his mouth with one hand and whispered, What? The city lord was shocked. Then, he raised his head. His eyes were full of excitement. In the past few days, he had sent all sorts of people to find Lin Bai's whereabouts. Among them, there were many idlers who had come to kill the demon and uphold justice. However, even with so many people, they still could not find Lin Bai. He was like a fish that had fallen into the sea, disappearing without a trace. However, he did not expect that Fatty, who had just been brainwashed by him yesterday, would bring him Lin Bai's whereabouts today. What was efficiency? This was efficiency. If what Fatty said was true, then his and the skinny man's dereliction of duty would not even count as a fart and could be written off. Just as Fatty was about to speak, the city lord waved his hand. Don't stay here. Follow me inside. As the city lord spoke, he got up and walked to the house behind. Then, he came to a piece of porcelain. He turned left 3 times and turned right 2 times. Crack, crack. A stone door appeared on the wall in front of them. Follow me. The city lord took the lead and walked in. Behind this door was the city lord's cultivation room. There were all kinds of treasures that could assist in cultivation and arrays that could gather spiritual energy. These things were worlds apart from those on the market. To be able to follow the city lord here meant that he had gained the city lord's trust. When Fatty thought of this, He felt quite excited and immediately followed. AI, there's still no sign of him. The thin man shook his head. He asked the servant at the entrance of Bai Shi's residence, but the servant said that he had not seen Fatty. Lin Bai frowned and said, "Continue to think. Is there any other place he would go?" The thin man sat in front of the stone table and thought about it, but he could not think of anything. Just as the skinny man was about to stand up and look around again, the fatty walked in from the courtyard. His face was slightly tipsy, and he was holding 2 flasks of wine in his hands. "Yo, you guys are here. It's so easy to find. Come, 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 this is the good wine I bought." The fatty's footsteps were floating. His clothes were loose, and his chest was open. There were even a few red marks on his collar. "You actually went out to indulge in debauchery? What time is it now?" The skinny man could not help but curse. However, he did not let go of the wine in the fatty's hand. He took it over and began to drink. The wine was smooth and creamy. The taste was just right. After drinking it, there was still a lingering fragrance. It made one's chest feel warm and comfortable. Good wine. The skinny man could not help but praise. "Hey, I'm not looking." Burp. "The current situation is too dangerous. If anything happens, I can also be a philanderer." As the fatty spoke, he burped. His appearance completely dispelled the worries in the skinny man's heart, because the fatty indeed had these hobbies, and it also corresponded to his personality. Lin Bai sat opposite the two of them and watched coldly, not expressing any opinions. Then, "Shall we continue tonight?" Fatty's eyes that were filled with alcohol lit up. It was as if his drunkenness had mostly subsided as he asked in a low voice. Lin Bai nodded without saying a word. "Bai Shi has already gone to check on the situation. We'll set off once the sky turns dark." "What's the matter? Why are you suddenly asking about this?" The skinny man was tasting the fine wine. He did not feel that there was anything wrong with Fatty's question at all. "It's nothing. I just wanted to make sure. This way, I can spend half of my savings on debauchery today, and it won't be considered a loss. After all, who can be certain of the future?" The fatty shook his head. The 2 bottles of wine were quickly finished by the 3 of them. The thin man and the fatty drank until they were slightly tipsy. With their shoulders drooping, they walked into the attic together and prepared to sleep until the afternoon. As for the 2 of them, they had just left when Bai Shi walked out from the courtyard and nodded at Lin Bai. "That's good." Lin Bai smiled. In the afternoon, Lin Bai brought his pet beasts to teach them. They were different from before. They had all kinds of abilities, and their strength was getting stronger and stronger. However, their battle experience and ability to cooperate were still lacking. Lin Bai needed to think of a way to link their skills together so that they could work together. This way, when they fought, they could fight 3 against 100. Last time, the 3 little beasts had fought back and forth against Chu Shan and He Qingyuan's dozens of subordinates. This explained the problem. Therefore, Lin Bai planned to find an opportunity to give them a hard training in this aspect in the future. The sky gradually darkened, and the starry sky began to be decorated. The thin man and fatty had long since sobered up. After taking the anti-alcohol medicine and confirming that their equipment was complete, they went to Lin Bai, who had been waiting in the courtyard for a long time. "All right, when the sky completely darkened, we will set off. Today, we will catch the city lord off guard." Lin Bai's voice was very soft, but the thin man and the fat man could hear a wave of determination from within and quickly nodded their heads. As the night fell and the starry sky was dotted, the lights of the 10,000 houses in the capital were lit up. The evening wind blew gently, cool, and comfortable, making people feel very comfortable. At the top of an attic, Lin Bai stepped on the rubble and looked at the center of the capital from afar, looking at the 10,000 houses' lights. Laughter, angry curses, wails, and the occasional smell of alcohol wafted in the wind. In an instant, he seemed to have seen the first time he came to this city. Everything he saw was very strange, like a country bumpkin entering the city. At that time, his cultivation had just begun. However, time flew by. In a trance, he had become the enemy of this city. Everyone had to kill him. Thinking of this, the corners of Lin Bai's mouth rose slightly. Suddenly, he heard the sound of footsteps stepping on the debris behind him. He did not even need to turn around. He could already guess who it was by relying on the sound of footsteps that were about to crush the debris. There was only one person beside him at such a heavy level. Hee. Fatty let out his signature cold laugh. The muscles on his face trembled as he walked. Everything is ready. We have confirmed that there are 10 guards in the 2 courtyards in front of us. There are also 2 teams of people lying in ambush in the distance. If we attack rashly, we will definitely attract their attention. The thin man followed behind Fatty. His footsteps were very light, like that of a ghost. If he wanted to, he could make it so that no one could hear his footsteps. He added, "It seems that after the incident last time, the city lord has increased his defenses. If it was in the past, why would he send so many people to squat here? He's too careful." When the thin man spoke about the incident last time, he was naturally referring to the incident where Lin Bai came to Bai Shi and conveniently took care of He Qing. Of course, in the city lord's understanding, it was Chu Shan who had betrayed him. He Qing Yuan's fate was unknown, and Bai Shi, Fatty, and the skinny man had nothing to do with Lin Bai. This was all thanks to the pill fool Silly Li had left behind. It was actually able to block the erosion of demonic qi. Otherwise, it would have been much harder for Lin Bai to fight the city lord. When do we make our move? Without waiting for Lin Bai to speak, Fatty rolled his eyes and asked. Lin Bai turned his head and glanced at Fatty, saying, "You seem to be looking forward to it." "That's for sure. Who knows, I might be able to plunder something from those people. I hope there are some top-grade pills and top-grade weapons. Thinking of this, I have to keep my saliva. If there really are some, my cultivation will improve very soon." Fatty rubbed his hands. A look of joy appeared on his face. His tone was very normal, and there was nothing unusual about it. "Don't just covet those things and forget about the main business." Lin Bai laughed lightly, but did not stop him. He, Fatty, and Skinny were now ants on the same rope. The 2 of them were now more like Lin Bai's subordinates. Lin Bai would not stop them from having such thoughts, as long as it did not affect the completion of the mission. After all, people were driven by benefits. Of course. Fatty hurriedly nodded. Although the thin man behind him did not speak, an expression of anticipation appeared on his face. The 2 of them had not made any progress in their cultivation. All they lacked was an epiphany, a stroke of good fortune, and a stroke of good luck. And now, Lin Bai had given them such an opportunity. The thin man felt even more fortunate in his heart. If he had followed the city lord all the way back then, not only would he not have been able to obtain the medicinal pills that could improve his cultivation, but he would also have been brainwashed by the city lord's demonic aura and become his puppet. Thinking up to this point, he recalled how he looked when he was face to face with the city lord not too long ago. The demonic qi emitted from the city lord's body, as well as that pair of eyes that seemed to be able to see through everything in the world and cut through everything, caused the depths of his soul to begin to tremble with fear. Even when he slept at night, he had dreamed about it once before waking up with a start. As he thought about it, the thin man only felt that the night wind at this moment was like an ice blade. He could not help but shiver and shake his head to stop himself from thinking about it. "We're ready. We can attack at any time." Bai Shi, dressed in green, fell from the darkness and landed steadily on the rubble without making a sound. Seeing this scene, the thin man sucked in a breath of cold air. Fortunately, when they were monitoring Bai Shi, they only hid far away in the darkness and hid their presence. Otherwise, if Bai Shi found out, he and the fatty might not be able to withstand it. Lin Bai turned around and asked, "How is it?" In one of the courtyards, there is a guest elder recruited by the city lord's estate. His name is Iron Blood Wang Meng, and he is a martial artist. It is rumored that his attainments in physical training are extremely high, and he has already trained to be impervious to swords and spears, invulnerable to water and fire. Even He Qing Yuan could only slightly injure his physical body. As Bai Shi spoke, seeing that Lin Bai didn't have any reaction, she continued to add on. In the other courtyard, another guest of the city lord estate, Louis Shu, is a beastmaster. He has a bronze mountain bear that is bloodthirsty and ravenous. It is extremely terrifying both in terms of defense and damage. In addition, he also has a silver eagle that is fast as lightning, good at ambush. A bronze mountain bear and a silver eagle. They were two rare spirit beasts obtained by Lu Yishu obtained. One can fight on the ground, the other is waiting in the sky for the opportunity to move. Just thinking about this made the thin man feel a little hesitant. However, things had already come to this, so he could only brace himself and fight. Heh, interesting. Lin Bai laughed and looked at Little Black beside his feet. Little Black, later you will fight with that bear to see who is more tanky and who is more able to carry. Little Black opened its mouth, and its expression became human-like. It looked fierce, indicating that it was eager to try. Little Red also bumped into Lin Bai, indicating that it also wanted to give it a try. All right, that Iron Blood Wang Ming. Isn't he impervious to fire and water? Then Little Red go give him a test? Lin Bai laughed lightly. He was very much looking forward to seeing that scene. Little Red made a double-handed gesture, indicating that it couldn't wait any longer. Seeing Lin Bai like this, the thin man felt that he might have had an illusion. It was as if what he said was true. These two people were not worth mentioning? No, no, no. The thin man shook his head. He had heard of these two people a long time ago. Compared to Chu Shan, these two people were even more difficult to deal with. Previously, there were people who wanted to defeat these two people to increase his reputation. However, no one knew what happened to those people after that. However, the skinny man knew that those people would definitely not return. They had become the souls of Wang Ming and Lu Yishu. The eyes of the fatty next to him shone with a golden light. In other words, these two people might have something good on them. The thin man patted his head. Why are there a bunch of lunatics next to me? It's getting late. Lin Bai looked at the two courtyards in front of him. He could see an eagle hovering in the sky above the courtyard. It must be Lu Yishu's silver spirit eagle. Let's go and meet that Lu Yishu first. After saying that, Lin Bai exerted strength under his feet and jumped high into the air as if he was flying. His figure flickered continuously as he arrived outside Lu Yishu's courtyard. Who are you? Don't you know that I, Lu Yishu, am here? How dare you act so impudently? A cold voice came from the courtyard. It was unruly and arrogant, as if everyone in the world was inferior to him. Who else could it be? Of course it's your grandpa Lin Bai, cough cough, and your fat grandpa. Hearing the tone of others, the first one who was unconvinced was definitely Fatty. So he raised his voice and said, Then, Fatty's feet sank down, and he held his hands in front of his chest. Then, he suddenly exerted strength with his feet, and two fists the size of clay pots smashed into the wall outside the courtyard like two cannonballs. Boom! Dust flew everywhere. The outer wall of the courtyard was smashed into a hole that 3 or 4 people could enter side by side. Lu Yishu, come and face your death. Fatty roared loudly. Before the dust had dispersed, he concealed his figure and rushed in. What Lin Bai? Lu Yishu never expected that Lin Bai would actually find him personally. He had been looking forward to killing Lin Bai for a long time. At this moment, when he heard that Lin Bai had come, not only was he not surprised, but his eyes were actually eager to give it a try. Quick, pull the communication tube and get the city lord and the others to come and help. However, although Lu Yishu looked down on everyone and treated everyone with an unruly appearance, he had respect for the city lord. Naturally, he did not dare to forget to inform him at this moment. The person behind Lu Yishu hurriedly took out the wooden tube from his clothes and grabbed the red rope with one hand. He was about to pull it. Be careful, Lu Yishu shouted. He wanted to make a move, but it was too late. I'll take care of this thing for you guys first. We're just sparring. Wouldn't calling the city lord spoil the mood? The thin man appeared beside the two like a ghost. Before the other party noticed, the dagger that emitted a cold light silently slashed down and stabbed toward the man's elbow. The man could only release the wooden cylinder and pull his hand back. He quickly pulled away from the thin man and retreated. There was a scream. The man had not even taken a step back when he felt a mountain hit his back. He spat out blood and flew out. There was no more movement. Watch out, don't block your fat grandfather's path. I'm talking about you. The fat man looked at the man lying on the ground. There was no movement. He smiled. Damn it. Lu Yishu did not expect the other party to be so ruthless and decisive. Looking at the wooden cylinder that was about to fall to the ground, he wanted to reach out to grab it, but it was snatched away by the thin man. After the thin man took the wooden cylinder, the soles of his feet stirred up wind, and he disappeared into the darkness again. Whoosh! The thin man was about to jump into the shadow of the attic and wait for an opportunity to act. But just as he exerted force from the soles of his feet and jumped into the air, he heard a sound that cut through the air. Not good. The thin man's expression changed greatly. He took out a dagger and swung it behind him. He kicked the bottom of his foot upwards and kicked the pillar of the attic, changing his trajectory in the air. And at this moment, a silver shadow, like a shooting star in the night sky, streaked past the thin man's previous position. This shadow seemed to be able to tear through space. A powerful airflow surged past, and the thin man took the opportunity to land steadily on the second floor of the attic. Looking down, he saw that there was a sharp and even crack on the pillar of the attic. If I hadn't dodged in time, the thin man only felt his scalp go numb. He had been separated from death just now. After the silver shadow flashed past, it returned to the sky, looking for a second chance to attack. It was Lu Yishu's familiar, the silver spirit eagle. It was all thanks to Bai Shi, who had found out about the other party before they made their move. Otherwise, the thin man wouldn't know how to react just by hearing the sound. Seeing the thin man in such a sorry state, the fatty subconsciously wanted to mock him, but just as he was about to say something, he forcefully swallowed it back. The fatty felt as if he was being swallowed by the darkness. There was something staring at him, making his back break out in a cold sweat. Fatty hurriedly turned around. He saw a bear that was half the height of an attic and was as tall as a small mountain. Its entire body was covered in bronze-colored fur, and it was breathing hot air in the darkness. Bronze mountain bear. This bear's paw was as long as Fatty's palm, and it was flickering with a bright white light in the darkness. What was even more terrifying was that as this bear breathed in and out hot air, Fatty could smell a strong bloody smell. Roar! The bronze mountain bear let out a deafening roar as it slammed its palm towards Fatty, as though it wanted to destroy everything in this world. Fatty did not dare to fight against it and hurriedly retreated. Rumble! The palm of the bronze mountain bear missed, but it smashed into the ground, directly creating a huge pit. F***CK. Fatty looked at the scene in front of him and could not help but curse. If this palm had landed on his body, Fatty would have already turned into a pile of meat paste. Fatty, don't just stand there. The thin man's shout was heard. Fatty immediately felt the sound of air being torn apart, so he quickly rushed towards the paper window of the attic and hid inside. And the spot where he was standing just now had left a deep mark. Fatty had yet to stabilize his feet when the bronze mountain bear spat out a wave of heat from its mouth and swept towards the attic. Are you done yet? Fatty could only run out from the window on the other side of the attic and did not dare to stay. The attic that was engulfed by the bronze mountain bear's flames started to burn. In a short while, the entire attic became torches and turned into ashes. I got it. Just as the bronze mountain bear's attention was attracted by the fatty, the thin man found an opportunity and quietly arrived behind Lu Yishu. He raised his dagger and stabbed it towards his back. Aren't you looking down on me too? Not only did Lu Yishu not panic, he even sneered. Then, he stretched out his right hand and suddenly flew into the air. You beastmasters are really cunning. It was only then that the thin man saw clearly that it was the silver spirit eagle that had brought Lu Yishu into the air, dodging the attack. Before the thin man could retract his dagger, he saw the bronze mountain bear charging towards him like a mountain, brandishing its sharp claws. It's over. The thin man was horrified. He had no time to dodge. If he was hit by the bronze mountain bear, his body would definitely be split into two. Little black. At this moment, the thin man heard a sound that made him heave a sigh of relief. He saw a black shadow flash and appear in front of him, crashing towards the bronze mountain bear's claws. Lu Yishu, who was in the air, sneered when he saw this scene. In his eyes, this method was undoubtedly courting death, using an egg to hit a rock. Stupid thing, don't make such a mistake in your next life. Lu Yishu looked down coldly, but the scene of flesh and blood flying everywhere did not appear. Bang! A sound that sounded like metal colliding rang out. Little Black's shell steadily received the claws of the bronze mountain bear. There was not even a single mark left on the shiny black shell. You. Louis Shu looked at the scene in front of him in shock. A small turtle had blocked the attack of the mountain-like bronze mountain bear. As his subordinate spirit beast, Louis Shu had the best understanding of the strength of the bronze mountain bear. But until now, he had never seen a situation where the sharp claws of his bronze mountain bear did not even leave a mark. In the past, other spirit beasts would not be able to withstand this attack at all. However, the scene in front of him, there was not a single faint mark on the pitch-black turtle shell of this small black beast. This made Louis Shu have no choice but to believe everything that had happened in front of him. At this moment, a fiery light flickered beside him. This fiery light was incomparably hot, just like a real sun. It wanted to melt down everything in this world, to melt down the endless laws of this world. Run! Louis Shu gave an order to the Silver Spirit Eagle. The Silver Spirit Eagle understood and flashed horizontally. Its body seemed to transform into a bolt of lightning as it dodged this attack. Damn it! But just like that, a corner of Louis Shu's clothes was also burned by the flame. The small flame that was originally burning enlarged in the blink of an eye, as if it wanted to swallow Louis Shu inside. Louis Shu let go of the hand that was grabbing the Silver Spirit Eagle and swung it towards the sleeve of the other hand. The burning clothes scattered down, which also made him heave a huge sigh of relief. If he hadn't acted in time, the fire might have caused him to die here. After all, Louis Shu was only a beastmaster. He had never tempered his body, so he couldn't withstand such an attack. Lin Bai, you demon, what are you doing here? Louis Shu flew to the other side, and only then did he see Lin Bai leisurely walking into the courtyard. A faint smile hung on the corner of Lin Bai's mouth, as if he was not here to fight, but to play. Louis Shu immediately flew into a rage out of humiliation. He had never seen such an arrogant person. What do you think I'm here for? You already said that I'm a demon. What do I need to explain? Lin Bai stood motionlessly, extremely calm. Although Lin Bai had been slandered as a demon and now needed to wash away his identity, he didn't intend to explain himself to Louis Shu, who did not intend to think on his own. The fist was the best explanation for these people. Thank you. The thin man retreated behind Lin Bai and wiped the sweat off his forehead with his hand. After walking one round in front of the gates of hell, the thin man did not dare to be careless again. Lin Bai nodded, and the skinny man once again quietly disappeared into the darkness. Little Black's big eyes turned back to look at Lin Bai and kept blinking. How is it? Master, I'm not bad, right? Ha ha ha. Little Black, don't be careless. Lin Bai gave Little Black a doting look and reminded him. Roar. The bronze mountain bear let out a deafening roar again. Its tusks were tightly clenched together, and red light was emitted from its tusks. Hot air was rising up, and Lin Bai could feel the scorching air wave from a distance. Little Black waved its hand and grabbed, eager to give it a try. It indicated that if you come, I'll take it. Little Green rubbed Lin Bai's back. No need. I'll leave this to Little Black. Don't worry. Lin Bai said confidently, telling Little Green that there was no need to worry. In the next moment, the pitch-black night sky was illuminated by a red flame, and the surroundings were as bright as day. Arrogant and conceited. I'll let you pay the price for your arrogance. Seeing that Lin Bai did not give the order for the spirit beast to dodge, blue veins popped up on Louis Shu's face. Feel the bronze flame. The flames that blotted out the sky and earth, like lava, enveloped Little Black. Before the flames arrived, the house next to Little Black began to burn. Seeing this scene, Fatty, who had been looting the spoils of war from the person who had fainted at the beginning, could not help but stop what he was doing. If the Bronze Mountain Bear had used this move before, he definitely would not have been able to escape at that time. He would have only become the fuel of the flames, depleting the grease on his body, and eventually, even his bones would have been burnt into cinders. How is this possible? The thin man's face was also filled with shock. He knew that Lin Bai's spirit beasts were all extraordinary and had some incredible bloodlines. But even so, It was not something that could be played like this. The flames swept over Little Black like a wave, but Little Black did not move at all. Faint water vapor appeared around Little Black's body and carried away the clear blue water that floated around it. Lin Bai laughed. He once again felt the feeling of being connected to all the water around him when he imparted his power to Little Black. This feeling was mysterious and mysterious. It was as if it resonated with heaven and earth and the laws of heaven and earth. After a moment, only the scarlet flames were left, and Little Black's figure completely disappeared. And these flames even began to burn the surface of the earth and began to devour. Haha, Lin Bai, I've said it before, you're too arrogant and conceited. As expected, only demons act like this. Today, let me slay a demon and rid the world of you. I will return the world to a bright future. Lu Yishu laughed maniacally, the expression on his face as if he had already won. Then, he activated the bronze mountain bear and pounced towards Lin Bai with unstoppable momentum. The silver spirit eagle also pincer attacked from the sky. It flapped its wings and stabbed a few silver air blades towards Lin Bai. As the silver air blades were released, the silver spirit eagle also charged forward with its body. Its pair of claws clawed at the places behind it that it could dodge. What? The treasure that Fatty had looted fell to the ground. The situation suddenly took a turn for the worse, and he didn't even have the time to react. How did Lin Bai, who was so sure of victory, suddenly fall into a dead end? But right at this moment, a black shadow flashed out of the bronze flame. It was Little Black. Little Black waved its claws and clawed at the back of the bronze mountain bear. Impossible. Upon seeing this scene, Lu Yishu's eyes widened, and he even forgot to give the order to his two spirit beasts. Roar! A disdainful expression appeared on the bronze mountain bear's face. It wanted to use its back to withstand this attack. Bang! The sound of metal colliding rang out once again, causing goosebumps to appear all over the person's body. A bloody light rose into the sky. The bronze mountain bear's fur, which was known for its defense, was cut open by Little Black's sharp claws. The deep white bones could be seen, and fresh blood spewed out. Oh, whoa! The bronze mountain bear let out a mournful cry. The intense pain aroused its bloodthirsty instinct, and its eyes turned blood red. Frenzy! The bronze mountain bear, which had forgotten its rationality, bit down, crashed, and spat out flames. Its destructive power was astonishing. If someone were to be sucked into it at this time, they would only need a moment to disappear. However, this berserk state also had a drawback, which was that it had no rationality. Little Black seized the opportunity to dodge the attack of the bronze mountain bear. If it was a rational bronze mountain bear, Little Black would not be able to dodge it with its speed. Blackie immediately stretched out its claws and clawed at the eyes of the bronze mountain bear. Idiot! Lu Yishu, who was in the air, wanted to give the bronze mountain bear an order. However, at this moment, another flame swept towards him. He could only make the silver spirit eagle hurriedly dodge. But at that moment, a green shadow flashed and tightly bound the silver spirit eagle. Screech! Screech! Two streaks of blood splashed out. A deep bloody scar was left on the silver spirit eagle's wing. It was just a tiny bit away from being torn off. The silver spirit eagle let out a mournful howl and fell to the ground. Roar! The bronze mountain bear's eyes were torn open by Little Black, and blood gushed out uncontrollably. Following that, Fatty and Thin Man seized the opportunity to appear from the darkness and attack the bronze mountain bear together with Little Black. Without its eyes, the bronze mountain bear was furious. It could only wave its claws blindly without a target, unable to hit anyone. The bronze mountain bear once again used the bronze flame, but it was still easily dodged by Little Black, Thin Man, and Fatty. Roar! The bronze mountain bear howled again, but this time, its mountain-like body fell to the ground, and the ground shook. This mountain-like bear whose attack and defense could dominate a region was dead. Little Black waved its claws proudly, and its face was filled with the joy of victory. Meanwhile, the Thin Man and Fatty beside him stared at Little Black as if they were looking at a monster. They believed that from today onwards, they would no longer dare to underestimate Little Black. They already had a deep understanding of the consequences of underestimating Little Black. On the other side, Lu Yishu rapidly descended from the sky. Little Green and Little Red were still continuously launching attacks, trying to make him fall to the ground with heavy injuries. Two useless things. Lu Yishu's eyes were bloodshot, and a vicious aura emerged. Then, he used his foot to stomp on the silver spirit eagle, and his entire body flew horizontally, landing steadily on the attic. The silver spirit eagle, which was already heavily injured, was stomped heavily on the ground by this stomp. After letting out a weak wail, it no longer made any movements. Useless things, useless things. Even though his two spirit beasts were dead, Lu Yishu's face did not show the slightest bit of heartache. Instead, he angrily cursed the two spirit beasts for being useless. When Lin Bai's three small beasts saw this scene, an inexplicable anger rose from their bodies. If it weren't for Lin Bai not giving the order and still being by his side, the three of them would have already rushed towards Lu Yishu. Lin Bai, you actually relied on your numbers to act recklessly. How detestable, how cunning, how monstrous your demonic nature is. Lu Yishu had already fallen into a state of madness and was already burning with rage in his chest. What monstrous demonic nature? I'm actually very curious. Who's the one with monstrous demonic nature now? Lin Bai smiled coldly and wasn't angered by Lu Yishu's words. He was not worthy. However, do you think you can continue to be so arrogant? The commotion from the fight just now must have attracted the nearby people. Lin Bai, today is the day you die. Lu Yishu roared angrily. Do you really think that you have attracted a lot of people? Lin Bai raised the corner of his eyes and looked at the starry sky. Originally, it was hanging high up, emitting silver light and dotted the Milky Way. At some point, it seemed to have been covered by a layer of gauze. Looking into the distance, the surroundings were quiet. There was not a single sound. At some point in time, the gauze had covered the entire courtyard. No matter how stupid Lu Yishu was, he suddenly realized that Lin Bai must have used some kind of spirit tool, charm, or array formation in order to cover up his tracks. This is really good stuff. Lin Bai looked at the gauze, but a look of pity appeared on his face. It's a pity that it can only be used once. Otherwise, I would really like to use it more often. This gauze was a formation that Bai Shi had accidentally obtained in the past. The formation was very ancient and dilapidated to begin with. It could cover an area of 5 kilometers, preventing the sound and light from reaching the outside. Unfortunately, after using it once, the formation would break and collapse. Lu Yishu gritted his teeth so hard that cracking sounds could be heard. He stared at Lin Bai. In that case, I can only use my trump card. I didn't want anyone to see it at first. A puff of smoke enveloped Lu Yishu's figure. Then, a black shadow as tall as a bronze mountain appeared. It was a 4-clawed emerald black panther with jet black fur and emerald patterns on its body. As soon as the black panther appeared, Lin Bai's 3 small beasts became alert. Ha ha ha, I accidentally found this in a cave. It's a black lightning panther, but it's not a simple black lightning panther. Lu Yishu became even crazier. He didn't care at all about revealing the information to Lin Bai. He was originally unruly and unyielding. He thought highly of himself, but his 2 pet beasts were killed by Lin Bai in just one move. This was undoubtedly a blow to his self-esteem. But he has a mutated bloodline. He has awakened the bloodline of the Jadeite Panther. With the combination of the two, even those rare spiritual beasts are no match for him. Lu Yishu had a strong confidence in his mutated Black Lightning Panther. Today, all of you will die here so that my secret will not be discovered by others. Lu Yishu's voice was cold and emotionless, but his expression was very distorted. Just as he said, this mutated Black Lightning Panther was even rarer than a phoenix feather or a unicorn horn. It could possess the characteristics of 2 spirit beasts at the same time. In addition, there would only be 1 mutated spirit beast out of 100 billion, and once it mutated, it would often possess terrifying and extraordinary strength. Even some extraordinary spirit beasts wouldn't be able to match it. It was precisely because of this that Louis Shu had been hiding this secret from the start. If other beastmasters, who were even more powerful than him, discovered this Black Lightning Panther, it would undoubtedly bring him a fatal disaster. Roar! The Black Lightning Panther roared in a low voice. The surrounding air seemed to evaporate at this moment, trembling, and the rocks on the ground shook as well. Not good. Seeing the Black Lightning Panther staring in their direction, the thin man exerted strength in his feet, desperately dodging backward. The fat man followed closely behind. Little Black looked in Lin Bai's direction, its black eyes indicating that it wanted to give it a try. Then, lightning appeared around the Black Lightning Panther, and its entire body turned into lightning. It seemed like it was about to tear open space as it pounced towards Little Black. Imph! Do you think that just because you can block the attack of the Bronze Mountain Bear, you can block my Black Lightning Panther? You're too arrogant. You don't know life from death. Louis Shu had extremely high confidence in his Black Lightning Panther. In the blink of an eye, the Dark Lightning Black Panther appeared in front of Blackie. The difference between the two bodies was like a mountain and a rock. Lightning appeared around the Black Lightning Panther's jade-colored claws, and it suddenly waved its claws. This claw had the power of lightning. It was as if everything in the world was nothing in front of it. Little Black did not panic. It twisted its body and used the shell on its back to block this claw. Bang! The sound of metal colliding could be heard. The surrounding floor and stone bricks were crushed into powder by the impact and flew everywhere. A shallow dent was left on Little Black's pitch-black shell, but it did not cause any serious injuries to Little Black. Impossible! Louis Shu shouted like he was going crazy. He could not believe what was happening before his eyes. The Black Lightning Panther, which he was proud of, only left a shallow dent on Little Black's shell with its full strength. It did not cause any substantial damage to Little Black. Little Black bared its fangs and brandished its claws as it glared at Louis Shu and the Black Lightning Panther. It looked as if it was saying, "You can actually hurt me a little." Unfortunately, Louis Shu could not read Little Black's meaning. Otherwise, he would definitely spit out a mouthful of blood on the spot. The Black Lightning Panther in front of Little Black, on the other hand, understood Little Black's meaning. Its body contracted like a bow. Its two front claws were raised in the air as it clawed crazily at Little Black. Ping pong 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 pong. The Black Panther claws shot out of bolts of lightning and smashed in the back of the attic. Rocks fell to the ground. Just for a while, this huge, bustling courtyard has become a mess. The fat man and the thin man had now moved far away. The fatty sucked in a breath of cold air as he watched Little Black and the Black Lightning Panther fight fiercely in front of him. He said foolishly, "Big brother, do you think we made the wrong choice back then? Actually, beastmasters are more suitable for us." When the thin man heard the fatty's words, the corners of his mouth twitched, and he resisted the urge to punch the fatty. That was because, for a moment, his heart was also moved by spirit beasts like Little Black and the Black Lightning Panther. However, the thin man quickly came to his senses. Spirit beasts like Little Black and the Black Lightning Panther were even rarer than transcendents. They could only be encountered by chance and not sought after. On the other hand, he and Fatty didn't have any status or background. If they wanted to become beastmasters when they first started cultivating, would they have the money? No. Did they have the background? Even less. Therefore, the path of a warrior was the only path for him and Fatty. It was also the only path that would allow them to be reborn and usher in a different life. At this moment, the thin man only felt that his conviction was incomparably firm. This kind of conviction, or rather, his Dao heart, was especially important to both martial artists and beastmasters. If a crack appeared between his conviction and his Dao heart, then the more he advanced on the path of cultivation, the more likely it was that he would leave behind a knot. And this knot would become stronger and more concealed. Then, each knot would become a calamity in his heart, and some people might even go berserk because of it. Don't think about it. The thin man began to teach Fatty. We only have one path to take. If we really had a beastmaster path to choose from, then we would have met with a fortuitous encounter a long time ago. If we didn't have a fortuitous encounter, then it meant that we weren't suitable for it. Fatty frowned. He hadn't expected the thin man to say such unfathomable words today. He couldn't help but look up to him. It was no wonder. Ever since he had been by Lin Bai and by Shi's side, the thin man had been influenced by them. Sometimes, when it came to the barrier of cultivation, he would also seek answers from Lin Bai or by Shi. This made him gain a lot. What are you thinking about? Be careful. A bolt of lightning flew over. Fatty quickly pulled the thin man away. The spot where the skinny man had been standing just now had already been struck by the lightning, leaving a deep pit. That was close. The thin man hurriedly wiped the sweat off his forehead. Little Green and Little Red, you guys go too. Lin Bai, who was watching from afar, gave an order to his two little beasts. Based on the current situation, if they continued to let Little Black fight, although the result would be a victory, Little Black would also suffer considerable injuries. But now, Lin Bai still needed to let Little Black preserve his battle strength. Lin Bai, do you dare to duel with my spirit beast and see which spirit beast is the strongest? Lu Yishu already had a kind of obsession in his heart, which was that he had to compete with Little Black. Hee, there's no need to compete. Lin Bai laughed lightly. You only have one Black Lightning Panther, but I have a bunch of pet beasts. Little Green and Little Red each displayed their supernatural powers. A green light and a red light were spat out and devoured the Black Lightning Panther. As the two little beasts attacked, a wave of pressure suddenly rose from their bodies. As a beastmaster, how could Lu Yishu not understand what this was? Dragon? Phoenix? Lu Yishu vaguely felt an inexplicable aura. His body froze, staring fixedly at Little Green and Little Red. How could Lin Bai miss such a good opportunity? His figure flashed, and a gust of wind rose from the soles of his feet. In the blink of an eye, he appeared in front of Lu Yishu. No, that's impossible. Lu Yishu looked at Lin Bai's skills and movement techniques in disbelief, his expression as if he had seen a ghost. He had naturally heard others say that Lin Bai not only had extremely powerful spirit beasts, and his own strength wasn't inferior to many warriors. But back then, he had only taken those words as a joke. As a beastmaster, he naturally knew what kind of energy a beastmaster had to spend on this path. Ordinary people wouldn't have the energy to cultivate. But now, such a living example was right in front of him. Impossible! Lu Yishu roared, but his body completely forgot to dodge. Lin Bai threw a punch. This punch was as easy as crushing a dried twig, as if it could affect a small area of space in the vicinity. Bang! The punch landed heavily on Lu Yishu's chest. Lu Yishu spat out a mouthful of blood and was sent flying back into the attic. Both of his eyes were wide open, but his body did not move at all. He fainted. Meanwhile, below him, under the siege of the three small beasts, the Black Lightning Panther began to feel exhausted. In the end, Little Green found an opportunity to restrict the Black Lightning Panther's attack. Little Red and Little Black waited for an opportunity to move and launch their strongest attack. Roar! The Black Lightning Panther let out a furious roar that it did not dare to. However, the outcome was already set, and it could not change anything. In the end, the Black Lightning Panther's body was charred black and covered in wounds. Fresh blood dyed large areas of the ground red, and it died. The thin man and the fatty wiped their eyes and looked at the scene in front of them in disbelief. They had never thought that today's plan would go so smoothly. Who? Bai Shi also rushed over at this moment. According to the plan, he had to deal with the other people in the courtyard and ensure the safe release of the array formation. And now that he had returned, it meant that no one else in this courtyard could leave. Hee, now it's time to clean up the battlefield. When Fatty thought of this, his eyes began to glow with golden light. Apart from Lu Yishu and his three spirit beasts, Lin Bai had already let them take everything else. Would someone have a top-grade medicinal pill? The thin man was also infected by Fatty, his eyes shining. Lin Bai stroked the heads of the three small beasts lovingly and said gently, "Well done." However, Little Black gestured with its claws. "I can take care of that panther alone. Haha, you'll have another chance next time." Lin Bai could not help but laugh. Suddenly, the wall exploded. Bai Shi exclaimed, "Careful!" The wall exploded with a loud bang. Dust and bricks flew everywhere, splashing everywhere. She jumped high into the air and disappeared into the second floor of the attic. Fatty and Skinny were affected by it, so they could only hurriedly hide in the darkness on the other side. In an instant, the courtyard that was originally peaceful became chaotic once again. Haha, such an interesting thing, and you didn't call me. Fortunately, I didn't miss it. Before the dust settled, a rough and noisy laughter could be heard. There seemed to be some kind of power in the laughter, which made the thin man and the fat man feel their blood boiling. Their faces turned red and they spat out a mouthful of blood. This is Iron Blood Wang Ming. How did he come here? Our spiritual formation has been arranged properly. Logically speaking, it should block all the sound and light in this courtyard. The fatty clutched his chest and panted heavily. His eyes were constantly staring forward. The thin man hurriedly circulated his qi and blood, but he was extremely astonished. According to their plan, they would first get rid of Lu Yishu, then get rid of Iron Blood Wang Ming. This matter might seem like it would alert the enemy, but with the support of Bai Shi's spiritual weapon, it could allow them to get rid of one person silently first. However, the thin man had never expected that the Iron Blood Wang Ming, who should have been completely unaware of this, would come looking for him in a threatening manner. Could it be that someone had leaked the news? Then who could it be? Since the Iron Blood Wang Ming had come, did that mean that the Iron Blood Wang Ming had already passed the news to the City Lord, and the City Lord was now coming with a large number of his subordinates? The thin man's head spun rapidly, but he could not think of an answer. Bai Shi was even more surprised than the thin man. As the owner of a spirit tool, she naturally knew how mysterious and powerful the power of this spirit tool was. And at this moment, no matter how much Bai 11 believed in the spirit tool, she could not believe what was happening right now. The dust gradually dispersed, and at the cracked outer wall stood a tall, rough-looking man with the gaze of a wild beast. He stood with the force of facing against 10,000 enemies alone. This was Iron Blood Wang Ming. Iron Blood Wang Ming's eyes were wantonly sizing up the courtyard, and there was a hint of madness in the depths of his eyes. Whoosh! A faint sound that cut through the air was heard. Humph! Iron Blood Wang Ming frowned tightly and snorted coldly, but he stood still. Bang! Then, a crisp sound of metal colliding rang out. How naive. You want to use this thing to deal with children to deal with me? You are looking down on me too much. Iron Blood Wang Ming stood still, his tone cold and hot. On the ground beside his feet, there was a small, dark gray knife. The tip of the knife had been broken, and a curling appeared on the edge of the knife. Impossible. Fatty's eyes widened. This small knife of his was not an ordinary small knife, but a piece of cold iron stone. Even if it was a warrior one level higher than Fatty, it was impossible for him to use his body to take it down. And at this moment, not only did Iron Blood Wang Ming block it, he also completely damaged the small knife. One had to know that Fatty was aiming at one of the weakest parts of the human body, the neck. If even the neck was like this, then how terrifying was the fist, chest, and knee? What are you all so anxious for? Don't be anxious, take your time. The smile on Iron Blood Wang Ming's face became more and more rampant as he continued. I'll tell you a good news. I didn't inform the City Lord, so he wouldn't come out at this time to spoil our mood. Impossible. Why did you do that? The fatty stood up and said in disbelief. Why would I call him? Wang Ming asked back. If he came, where would I fight? Where would I go to have fun? And where would I go to kill weak fellows like you? Madman. The thin man quickly came to a conclusion that this Wang Ming was a complete madman. Back then, he did not use the wooden cylinder to communicate with the fatty. He was motivated by money and was prepared to risk it all for the sake of his cultivation. But this Wang Ming in front of him was purely doing it for fun and to satisfy him. At this moment, a sound of air being torn apart came from the darkness. Iron Blood Wang Ming looked in the direction of the sound and said with a calm expression, Didn't I already say that these methods to deal with children are useless against me? A long sword that was emitting a cold light attacked, as if it had left a crack in space. Bang! Another crisp sound of metal colliding. The long sword stabbed into Wang Ming's left chest, but the tip of the sword did not pierce through at all. The long sword began to fall. Before it landed on the ground, it was caught by Wang Ming's 2 fingers. Crack! The long sword was broken by Wang Ming's 2 fingers. Bai Shi, who was hiding in the dark, had a serious expression on her face. This was a sword that she had spent a lot of money to buy, and it was not an ordinary item, but it was broken so easily by Wang Ming. It was unbelievable. Is this all you have? This level is not enough to kill Lu Yishu. Show me some real ability, or else die. Wang Ming said disdainfully. His aura suddenly rose, and an aura that made people's soul tremble spread out in all directions. For a moment, Fatty felt that Wang Ming seemed to have become the master of this small space. It was as if he could determine the cycle of life and death with just a lift of a finger. This thought disappeared in the blink of an eye. Fatty did not dare to think about it again. Otherwise, this thought would become a mental demon seed in his state of mind. That Fatty would never have the slightest chance to advance in this lifetime. Humph, sword arts, saber arts, spiritual artifacts, spiritual beasts? Wang Ming muttered to himself and smiled. These are all external objects. I, Wang Ming, only train my body and only train my fists and feet. I will settle my body and enter the Tao with my own body. One day, I will also become a divine with my own body. Just as Wang Ming finished speaking, clear applause sounded in the courtyard. Not bad, not bad. Lin Bai walked to the center of the courtyard and faced Wang Ming with a faint smile on his face. Behind him, Little Black, Little Red, and Little Green looked at Wang Ming with interest. In their eyes, this Wang Ming was like a wild beast, like one of their own kind. Lin Bai? It really is you. When Wang Ming saw Lin Bai, a fanatical look appeared in his eyes. A righteous person? A demon? I don't care who you are, Lin Bai. As long as you can excite me, make my blood boil. After saying that, Wang Ming took a step in Lin Bai's direction. Bang! He raised his foot and put it down, but the ground beneath Wang Ming's feet caved in, and the rocks were crushed into powder by an imposing aura. What a pity, Lin Bai. You're a beastmaster, and I was born to be you beastmaster's nemesis. Wang Ming took another step forward. It was as if he had stepped on Bai Shi and the others' chests. They all spat out a mouthful of blood, their faces pale. You'll know once you give it a try. Lin Bai glanced at Bai Shi, who was not far away. He did not hide this action from Wang Ming. Bai Shi immediately nodded her head. With a slight push of her feet, she jumped out of the courtyard and disappeared. Wang Ming sneered as he watched Bai Shi leave. He did not stop her. He looked at Lin Bai and said mockingly, "You demon, you're really careful. I told you that I didn't inform anyone, and the city lord wouldn't come here. You don't dare to believe me? Haha, is this the courage of a demon?" When Wang Ming said this, he also noticed something else. Lu Yishu's corpse, as well as his bronze mountain bear and silver spirit eagle, were all lying in a pool of blood. They didn't move at all, as if they were all dead. Wang Ming only glanced at them lightly. He did not care about the lives of the weak. What he cared about was a black panther. Its entire body was black, but it had jade-colored claws and teeth. Even with Wang Ming's experience, he had never seen such a spiritual beast. This made Wang Ming quite interested. Moreover, with Wang Ming's understanding of Lu Yishu, he had never seen him use such a spiritual beast. However, Wang Ming's strong intuition told him that Lu Yishu's spirit beast was ridiculously strong. It was very likely to be some extremely rare spirit beast. Therefore, Lu Yishu did not hesitate to hide and secretly become stronger. Humph! It's a pity that Lu Yishu has always been arrogant and looked down on everyone. He must have underestimated the enemy at the first moment, and then lost his mind due to anger. What a weakling! Wang Ming raised his vigilance in his heart, but he could not help but start to despise Lu Yishu in his heart. He had never taken Lin Bai to heart before. He only felt that Lin Bai was a young man who had not cultivated for long, and could not be compared to old people like them at all. After all, cultivation depended on one's talent, and the other depended on the time invested. Why were the old, undying cultivators all ridiculously strong? It was because they had terrifying experience and shocking cultivation time. Looks like I'll have to exercise my muscles and bones today, Wang Ming thought to himself as a fanatic expression appeared on his face. His eyes were filled with fighting spirit, and he was like a beast that was ready to attack, eyeing his prey like a tiger. Lin Bai did not care about Wang Ming's mockery. As for whether Wang Ming had informed the city lord, he could not just listen to his own words. He had asked Bai Shi to leave first to investigate the situation. If what Wang Ming said was false, then Lin Bai needed another plan. Now was not the best time to fight with the city lord. Lin Bai had other more important purposes. You guys are not his match, just watch from the side. Lin Bai looked at a shadow in the courtyard. The Skinny and Fatty were hiding there. The Skinny and Fatty did not respond when they heard that, but they let out a deep sigh of relief in their hearts. They had a feeling that if they met Wang Ming head-on, not only would they not be able to hurt him, they would even be killed by Wang Ming. Lin Bai sized up the wild beast like Wang Ming. Wang Ming was a martial artist. His body was tempered to perfection, and this was the test subject that Lin Bai urgently needed. Little Black. Lin Bai called out Little Black. Little Black excitedly ran to Lin Bai front, toward Wang Ming. Little Black bared fangs and brandished claws up. Hey, beastmasters are like that. They only dare to control their beasts to hide behind them. Boring. Afraid to fight in close quarters. Well, when I tear your beasts to shreds and test your skills, I hope you won't let me down, or I'll do something irrational. Wang Ming was excited as well. He clenched his fists and instantly, a crackling sound of explosions could be heard, making people shudder. Little Green, help Little Black. Lin Bai called out Little Green again, which made Little Black's jet-black eyes full of doubt. Little Black opened its mouth. Master, I want to fight him one-on-one. I want to prove myself. However, just as Little Black closed its mouth, it felt a huge force coming from its back. Little Black's entire body was like a cannonball as it charged forward. You only let one spirit beast go? Then don't regret it. Watch how I'll turn your spirit beast into pieces. Wang Ming pointed his fingers together and pointed his thumb at Little Black. Using his hand as a knife, his entire arm charged forward and smashed heavily onto Little Black's body. F***CK. Fatty, who was hiding in the dark, couldn't help but exclaim. Even though he was far away, he could feel the power contained within this attack. He couldn't help but worry if Little Black could withstand it. Bang! Wang Ming's hand knife smashed onto Little Black's shell. When the two collided, a powerful shockwave was created, sweeping up the surrounding sand and dust into the air. What? Wang Ming looked at Little Black, who was safe and sound. There was a look of surprise in his eyes. There was no sight of Little Black's entire body being shattered. However, Little Black did not let go of this opportunity. Seizing the opportunity, it extended its sharp claws and grabbed at one of Wang Ming's arms. Are you really underestimating me? You think you can hurt me even a little? Seeing this, Wang Ming did not blink and allowed Little Black to grab his arm. This Wang Ming is too arrogant. He's going to suffer this time. The thin man's mouth twitched. He had seen how terrifying Little Black's claws were. The claws were still in the air, and the image of Wang Ming losing an arm appeared in the thin man's mind. The sound of nails scraping against metal could be heard. Little Black's claws only left a shallow wound on Wang Ming's arm. Fresh blood flowed out slightly, dyeing the entire arm red. However, the wound was too shallow. Wang Ming did not care at all, and it would not affect him at all. However, a small defensive beast that having such destructive power still shocked Wang Ming. The incomparably hard shell, the incomparably sharp claws and teeth, as well as the green and red spirit beasts behind Lin Bai. At this moment, Wang Ming understood how Lu Yishu died. He was crushed in terms of raw strength. Haha, good. Looks like I can have a satisfying battle tonight. Wang Ming's aura became more and more intense. Just as he steadied his body, he suddenly pulled out a leg and smashed it towards Little Black's body. The moment this leg was pulled out, it was accompanied by a howl of the wind. Bang! Little Black steadily received this kick. Its body was not injured, but its entire body was sent flying. It smashed heavily into the walls of the attic, passing through layer after layer of walls until it passed through the entire attic. See what I said? Fatty suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. Although Little Black's claws could hurt Wang Ming, the wound was too shallow and was not fatal at all. Wang Ming would not care even if it was a dozen more hits. This Wang Ming has been tempered to the point that he is invulnerable to fire and water. It seems like his reputation is not in vain. Even if he fights with some old guys, he will probably be able to escape from their hands safely. The thin man frowned. He was also worried about this battle. From the skinny man's point of view, Lin Bai and Lu Yishu had fought before. Lin Bai's own strength and spirit beast's strength surpassing Lu Yishu was one of the key points of victory. Other than that, there was another very important point. Lu Yishu had underestimated his opponent too much and had been too arrogant. He hadn't released all of his spirit beasts at the very beginning. If Lu Yishu had used his strongest spirit beast at the very beginning, then the situation of the battle would have become even more unclear, and it would have been impossible for Lu Yishu to be defeated so quickly. And now, Wang Ming had used all of his strength from the very beginning. Even though he was disdainful of Lin Bai in his heart, he was still fully immersed in the battle. Could it be that? The thin man hurriedly shook his head and detached this thought from his mind. You can actually stand up. Not bad, not bad. At least you are much stronger than the spiritual beasts of Lu Yishu. It's a pity that you haven't fully matured yet. Otherwise, I would feel even more happy fighting with you. When Wang Ming saw Little Black stand up again, a look of praise appeared on his face. Little Red rubbed against the corner of Lin Bai's clothes, and its eyes were a little worried. Lin Bai touched Little Red. Don't worry, trust Little Black. Then let's try this move of mine again. Wang Ming's aura suddenly rose. Big Arch Star. At that moment, Wang Ming's sturdy body seemed to have merged into the night sky, turning into a star. He leaped up high, and his entire body rushed towards Little Black like a comet. He pulled out one of his legs and smashed it forward. This kick had a crushing force, and it carried an unstoppable momentum. It was as if everything in the world was a bubble before him. Wang Ming was very confident in this kick. If other martial artists of the same level were to be hit by this kick, then there would definitely be no one who would be able to receive it unscathed. It's over. Fatty shouted in his heart. As a martial artist, he was very sensitive to this move. He could feel the terrifying destructive power within. No matter how outstanding Little Black was, it was impossible for him to block this attack. The skinny man's mouth was wide open, but he couldn't say anything. The skinny man thought that if he took this attack, he wouldn't even have a shred left. However, Little Black was very calm as he looked at Wang Ming. There was a trace of excitement in his jet-black eyes. A stream of water vapor appeared around Little Black's body and enveloped his back. As the blue water vapor appeared, spots of dark golden light appeared on Little Black's black body. The scales that appeared on Little Black's body not long ago seemed to cover his entire body, giving off an ancient aura. When Wang Ming saw Little Black's change, he was a little surprised, but he did not stop his kick. Even if Wang Ming wanted to stop this kick, it was impossible. Bang! Big Arch Star and Little Black collided. Silver and blue rays of light shot out, and the entire courtyard was as bright as day. Waves of air surged, and even the stone slabs on the ground were sent flying. Tree branches rustled, as if they were about to break. Fatty and Skinny were shocked by the powerful impact. They stood in their original spots, dazed, and forgot to dodge. They were extremely shocked. They had heard about how terrifying Wang Ming's strength was a long time ago. Today, they were even more shocked when they saw Little Black unleash its full strength. Wang Ming and Little Black both retreated. Wang Ming retreated 5 steps while Little Black retreated 10 steps until it hit a thick tree. The tree cracked and leaves fell down. Wang Ming looked at Little Black, who was safe and sound, and a blank expression appeared on his face. Soon, the blank expression turned into a fanatic smile. Good, good, good. Wang Ming shouted good 3 times in a row. This laughter was filled with an extremely strong boldness. If someone was not prepared, just listening to it would make their blood boil, and those who were weaker would even faint. Lin Bai, although I look down on you as a demon, but I have high hopes for this spiritual beast of yours. Presumably, in this entire world, there are very few who can match up to this spiritual beast of yours. As Wang Ming spoke, his gaze was fixed in the direction of Lin Bai, looking at the other 2 spiritual beasts beside his feet. Could it be that these two were like this little black in front of him, with extraordinary talent and formidable strength? Looks like I have to use my trump card, or else I'll end up like that trash Louis Shu. Wang Ming's two fists were held at his abdomen. He clenched his fists tightly and his body suddenly tensed up. Rip. The clothes on Wang Ming's body turned into tiny pieces, revealing his sturdy and terrifying physique. Hiss. Just looking at Wang Ming's terrifying physique, Fatty suddenly in a breath of cold air. Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll. Wang Ming shouted loudly. Even though the skinny man and Fatty were prepared in advance, they were still shocked by this shout. Immediately after, Wang Ming's muscles expanded, and golden patterns appeared on it. His body continued to rise, and in just a short while, he was a head taller than before. This is Wang Ming's body refining technique, Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll. It is rumored that this Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll has 9 levels in total. If one cultivates to the 9th level, he would be able to unleash endless dragon elephant power. His body would be as indestructible as a dragon and elephant, and lava would not be able to corrode his body. The skinny man's gaze was fixed on Wang Ming, and his face was already deathly white. When Little Black saw Wang Ming's reaction, his jet-black eyes did not show any intention of retreating. Instead, they became even more fanatical. I want to fight him one-on-one. I want to fight him head-on. Little Black's actions caused the corners of Lin Bai's mouth to twitch. He felt as if he had raised a little Wang Ming. All right, little guy, let's see if you can take this move of mine now. Wang Ming laughed. His body was covered with strange patterns, and there was a faint shadow high in the sky behind him. After Wang Ming said that, he stood where he was and threw a punch. This punch caused the dragon and elephant behind Wang Ming to appear. It was so huge that it was suffocating. A powerful and scorching air wave accompanied an illusory dragon elephant in the sky as it rushed toward Little Black. Wherever this illusory dragon elephant passed by, it destroyed everything in its path. The ground caved in by more than half a meter, and the bricks and stones were shattered into powder. Little Black placed its claws in front of its body, and a blue water vapor surrounded its claws. A dark golden light burst out from its body, and it smashed towards the dragon elephant. It's over, it's over. Fatty cried out in surprise, and he looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Every time Wang Ming raised his hand, a dragon and elephant would appear. This made him feel a suffocating pressure. In his opinion, Little Black would not be able to withstand this attack no matter what. On the other side, Lin Bai watched this scene calmly. This was part of his experiment. He wanted to have a clear understanding of Little Black's current defensive power so that there would not be any accidents during the later battles. Wang Ming waved his fist. Seeing Lin Bai's calm expression and the slight smile on his face, he suddenly felt irritable. Die! Boom! The violent explosion was deafening, as if the eardrums had burst open. The walls, garrets, rockery, and even trees in the courtyard had all been crushed into powder by the battle. The thin man secretly wiped away his sweat. If it hadn't been for Bai Shi's spirit weapon, the current commotion would have alarmed everyone in the capital. At that time, they wouldn't even have a place to escape to. What awaited them would be an inescapable net. The thin man didn't want to think about what would happen after that, nor did he dare to think about it. Impossible. Wang Ming said these 3 words in shock, his eyes wide as he stared at Little Black. Little Black was originally standing on flat ground, but it had sunk 2 to 3 meters into the ground. Even so, Little Black's body was still safe and uninjured. Little Black even bared its fangs and brandished its claws at Wang Ming. Come on, continue. I haven't had enough. Even though the communication between Wang Ming and Little Black was only based on their expressions and actions, Wang Ming still understood what Little Black was saying. Arrogant. Wang Ming roared in anger, twisted his body, and generated wind beneath his feet. He followed up with a few consecutive punches. With each punch thrown out, a dragon and elephant would flash behind Wang Ming's back. This kind of awe-inspiring light from a distance caused Fatty's entire body to tremble. Fatty hurriedly patted his chest, thinking that it was fortunate that he was not the one who fought with Wang Ming. Otherwise, he would have been reincarnated a long time ago. Little Black did not panic. He responded to every move with light steps. He did not get flustered by Wang Ming's continuous attacks. This was the battle experience that Lin Bai had taught him. After practicing with Lin Bai for a period of time, Little Black could be considered to have mastered some battle technique. After fighting with Wang Ming this time, Little Black's battle technique became more and more proficient. Not only that, the blue water vapor around Little Black became more and more colorful. Each droplet of the water vapor gave people a boundless feeling, as if each of them was like an ocean. Lin Bai frowned slightly as he watched from afar. It seemed that there were still many things that had not been dug out from Little Black's body. For example, what would Little Black's water vapor become if it continued to level up? Why did the water vapor give off such a boundless feeling? Looks like I'll have to give Little Black special training in the future, Lin Bai thought to himself. Little Black, who was fighting fiercely with Wang Ming, felt his heart shake. It was as if something had set its eyes on him, and he had a bad feeling about the future. Again. Wang Ming stuck close to Little Black's pace, not giving it any chance to retreat. He engaged in high-intensity hand-to-hand combat. The more he fought with Little Black, the more shocked Wang Ming became. Every time, Wang Ming would accurately hit the same spot behind Little Black. However, after dozens of hits, the layer of black shell on Little Black's back was still shiny and undamaged. Wang Ming had met opponents who paid great attention to defense, but those opponents could not withstand Wang Ming's continuous attacks. But now, a spirit beast that had yet to mature had done it. Wang Ming thought again. There were still two behind Lin Bai. Could it be that those two were as heaven-defying as Little Black in front of him? A sense of retreat appeared in Wang Ming's mind like a sprout, but Wang Ming shouted loudly and dispelled this thought in his mind. Because once this thought appeared, the direction of the battle would be set. Just as Wang Ming was distracted, Little Black timed it perfectly and dodged Wang Ming's attack. It suddenly appeared in front of Wang Ming and swung its claw that was wrapped in water vapor. Poochie. Blood gushed out from Wang Ming's left chest, and a few lines were cut. Hmph! Wang Ming snorted coldly. Instead of retreating, he advanced and swept his foot towards Little Black, forcing Little Black to take a few steps back. In the few seconds of the exchange, the wound on Wang Ming's left chest was healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Not long after, the wound seemed to have healed. Although the wound on his left chest was mostly healed, there was an inexplicable feeling coming from the wound. This made Wang Ming not dare to be distracted. A man and a beast were engaged in an intense battle. Originally, it was only a part of the courtyard that was badly damaged. Now, half of the courtyard had turned into ruins. There were even a few attic floors that had collapsed. Hiss! The fatty suddenly in a breath of cold air. The fight between Wang Ming and Little Black made him tremble in fear. What made him tremble in fear was that Wang Ming's dragon elephant sacred scroll had the appearance of a dragon elephant in every movement, not to mention that it had an extremely abnormal healing ability. The wounds that Little Black had left behind were no longer visible now. One had to know that many times, the deciding factor in a battle was these small wounds. If one had such a powerful healing ability, one would be able to gain a huge advantage in a battle and drag the opponent into a prolonged battle of attrition. As for Fatty's surprise, he felt that he had already overestimated Little Black. He felt that he was a rare spirit beast that many people could only dream of. However, looking at the battle in front of him, Fatty felt that he had underestimated Little Black. If Little Black were to fight Louis Shu's leopard one-on-one, Little Black would probably be able to win as well. Even though he would be slightly injured, it would not be a big deal. Such an ability, such a talented spirit beast. If other old monsters knew about it, it would definitely attract many people to fight over it. If this continued, Fatty would not dare to think about it anymore. Fatty, what the F***CK are you daydreaming about? A wave of curses pulled Fatty's thoughts back. Big brother, what's wrong? After Fatty collected his thoughts, he quickly looked at the battle situation in front of him. He thought that something had happened, but he realized that Wang Ming and Little Black were still fighting intensely. Why, she hasn't returned yet. I'm worried that if Wang Ming and Little Black continue fighting, even his spirit weapon won't be able to suppress this battle situation. The thin man's face was full of worry. His gaze was fixed on Little Black, not leaving for even a moment. What the thin man said made sense. Right now, other than a small corner of the courtyard, everything else was in ruins, and the spiritual weapon only covered an area that was not much bigger than the outer wall of the courtyard. Right at this moment, Wang Ming shouted loudly, "Lin Bai brat, do you dare to go all out and send out all your spiritual beasts?" The more Wang Ming fought with Little Black, the angrier he became. He could not break through Little Black's defense at all. When had he, Iron Blood Wang Ming, ever suffered such humiliation? He really wanted to crush one of Lin Bai's spirit beasts and enjoy the pleasure of losing his life at his fingertips. Little Black opened its mouth with a fierce look in its eyes. "Beat me first." Lin Bai looked at Little Black and could not help but smile. Then, he looked around the messy courtyard and looked down at Little Green and Little Red under his feet. "Wang Ming, is your body invulnerable to fire and water?" Lin Bai asked. Wang Ming raised his eyebrows and said disdainfully, "Of course." "Well, since you think so, I'll fulfill your wish. Little Green, Little Red, you guys go up. See if Wang Ming's body is as invulnerable as he said." Lin Bai didn't let Little Green and Little Red make a move earlier because he wanted to see where Little Black's limits were, and at the same time let Little Black adapt to fighting against powerful opponents. Now that he had achieved his goal, there was no need to continue wasting time. Otherwise, wasting time on this kind of thing would attract trouble that he should not. It would really be a case of robbing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Lin Bai had always been very clear about which was more important. Little Black looked at Lin Bai and gestured twice. "I can do it myself. I don't need any help." Lin Bai did not know whether to laugh or cry when he heard that. How could there be a kid like Little Black who liked action so much? Lin Bai shook his head and said, "Forget it this time. I'll let you have your fill next time. I definitely won't interfere." Hearing that, Little Black could only agree. Hearing Lin Bai's words, Wang Ming's face turned red. He, the iron-blooded King Ming, had never been looked down upon by anyone, but now, a little beast in front of him looked down on him. However, at the same time that Wang Ming was furious, he also felt that his head was extremely big. He only felt that he hated Little Black so much that he gritted his teeth, but he couldn't kill Little Black. He felt helplessness and irascibility. Taking advantage of the fact that Little Green and Little Red were still not here, Wang Ming quickly closed in and used his elephant-like body to hug Little Black tightly. He wanted to use all the strength in his body to crush Little Black's body into powder. Kacha kacha. A crisp sound that made one's hair stand on end was heard. The fatty and the skinny man beside him widened their eyes and forgot about everything else for a moment. They only cared about looking at Little Black. Kacha kacha. There was another crisp sound that made one's hair stand on end. When Little Green and Little Red heard the sound, their expressions changed slightly and they quickly went forward. However, they soon realized that they were worried too early. Not only was Little Black safe and sound, but it was also humanly making a face at Wang Ming. "Go to hell," Wang Ming shouted. He had never felt so aggrieved before. Immediately, Little Black broke free from its claws and clawed at Wang Ming's neck. Wang Ming could only grit his teeth and let go of Little Black. Even so, the tip of the claws still grazed his skin, and Wang Ming's neck quickly turned red. After breaking free, Little Black took a few steps back. Wang Ming hurriedly wanted to catch up to it to avenge his hatred. However, as soon as Wang Ming stepped forward, he felt a wave of heat in the night sky. When he raised his head, he saw a red fireball that distorted space sweeping over. "Little tricks," Wang Ming said disdainfully. Then, he crossed his arms and placed them in front of his chest. The patterns on his body vibrated, and there was a faint glow. A dragon and elephant appeared behind Wang Ming. It was as if they had materialized, making it hard for people to breathe. The fireball quickly engulfed Wang Ming, drowning him within. No one could see his figure at all. Fatty's eyes widened. He did not dare to let go for even a second, afraid that he would miss out on an important scene. Will the iron-blooded Wang Ming be gone? The thin man muttered to himself. This fireball was very far away from them, and they could not stand the heat. The grass not far away naturally became warmer because of the temperature. Still, Fatty had just said one word, but the scene in front of him jumped. He forcefully swallowed the words that he wanted to say. The flames dispersed, and a human figure appeared. Wang Ming, whose body was shining brightly, stood unscathed on the spot, while the dragon elephant behind him became even more real. Although the fatty knew that the iron-blood Wang Ming was abnormal, his physical body was too abnormal to withstand the flames. Haha, come on. Wang Ming laughed loudly. He felt that he had regained some of his dignity, but as soon as he finished speaking, a monstrous wave crashed down. The entire courtyard was swept away by the monstrous wave. The few remaining pavilions were also swept away. Even Fatty and Skinny, who were watching the battle from afar, were almost swept away. If they were swept away, they would probably die here as well. Come. Wang Ming once again crossed his hands in front of his chest. The dragon elephant behind him became more and more majestic and realistic, allowing the raging waves to wash over his body. The waves crashed and washed over him. The majestic power scraped every inch of Wang Ming's skin, and each strike was as heavy as 1,000 pounds. Ah! F***CK. Fatty's mouth grew big, and the waves dispersed. Wang Ming was still standing in his original spot, not moving at all. Is this the Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll? How perverse. If we also had such a cultivation technique. The thin man shook his head and stopped daydreaming. Small tricks, small tricks, small tricks. Wang Ming's blood was already boiling from the fight. He was blinded by the desire to fight. Just as he used his physical body to block the fire and water attacks, he stomped on the ground and jumped up high. His thick arms grabbed towards Little Red, who was in the air. Little Red flapped its wings and nimbly changed its direction. Then, it spat out a huge fireball. Wang Ming did not care at all. He allowed the fireball to hit his body, but in the end, he was safe and sound. This made Lin Bai's eyebrows twitch. It seemed that Wang Ming's Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll was still a little strange. The dragon elephant behind him was half real and half illusory, unlike before when it would disappear. It seemed that after the continuous battle, Wang Ming had entered a special realm of the Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll. This allowed his strength and defense to rise to another level. After failing his plan, Wang Ming immediately grabbed at Little Green with one hand. Little Green activated its control the moment Little Green's body was grabbed. Its tail wrapped around Wang Ming's arm, and it immediately used its head to smash it. Wang Ming casually stretched out a hand to block it, easily blocking it. Humph, Lin Bai? So that's it. I think the City Lord and the others don't need to worry about you at all. Although you're young and promising, you're still young. There's a gap in hard power between us. However, your grandfather, I, have long been annoyed by you. As Wang Ming spoke, he threw off Little Green and dashed in Lin Bai's direction, completely ignoring the attacks from Little Black and Little Red behind him. Oh no! The skinny man and Fatty cried out. Lin Bai was a beastmaster, and beastmasters were most afraid of getting close to martial artists. If they were to get close to him, they would be defeated, and they would die. Wang Ming threw a straight punch, the phantom of a dragon and elephant circling around his fist, while his other hand attacked from a crafty angle. One was a direct punch, and the other was out of his expectations. In addition, the power of the dragon and elephant was circling around his two fists, as if they were going to pierce through everything in this world. Heh! Lin Bai sneered softly. His feet moved slightly, and his body seemed to be like a ghost, disappearing for a split second. However, in that split second, Lin Bai found an opening. He pulled out a leg and kicked at the wound on Wang Ming's left chest that Little Black had left behind. Wang Ming was first shocked when he saw Lin Bai's speed. It was obvious that Lin Bai wasn't retreating, but was advancing instead. He even wanted to attack the wound on Wang Ming's body. This made Wang Ming sneer coldly. A beastmaster dares to fight me in close combat? Wang Ming originally wanted to stop chasing Lin Bai since he couldn't get rid of him. He wanted to get rid of his 3 spirit beasts as soon as possible. That would be like breaking Lin Bai's arms and legs. Even if Lin Bai escaped after that, Lin Bai would have already lost a lot of his vitality. There was nothing to be afraid of. However, Wang Ming didn't expect Lin Bai to make such a bold move. He was killing himself. Wang Ming didn't take Lin Bai's kick to heart at all. Previously, he had used his physical body to withstand the attacks of those absurd spirit beasts. To Wang Ming, the beastmaster's attacks were nothing more than a joke. After all, in this world, every profession had its own specialty. If a beastmaster not only had a powerful spirit beast, but also had an absurd physique, how could anyone else survive? Ever since Wang Ming had started roaming the world, he had never seen anyone who could dual cultivate as a beastmaster and a warrior. Perhaps some people had tried to do so, but in the end, none of them had been able to persevere. This was because it was impossible to begin with. Wang Ming abruptly retracted his two empty fists and pounced back at Lin Bai's neck. With Wang Ming's strength, it was a piece of cake for him to break Lin Bai's neck. Oh no! The skinny man stood up and wanted to run up to save Lin Bai. What is Master Lin Bai thinking? Isn't this courting death? Fatty's heart was also greatly boosted. One had to know that if anything happened to Lin Bai now, and they became enemies with the city lord, they would probably never be able to turn things around in the future. The two of them had fought with Lin Bai before and knew that Lin Bai's body was not inferior to many martial artists. However, he definitely couldn't be compared to the iron-blood Wang Ming. Therefore, from their point of view, it was very difficult to understand why Lin Bai did not retreat but instead advanced. It was simply an act of courting death. Bang! Lin Bai's foot heavily kicked Wang Ming's chest, and this foot smashed into Wang Ming's body. Wang Ming only felt his qi and blood surging all over his body. The wound that he had been injured by Little Black previously split open once again, and fresh blood sprayed out. He even took a few steps back. At this scene, the thin man and the fat man were stunned, and so was Wang Ming. Wang Ming did not block the kick and took it head-on. However, the strength of this kick was something that he had never expected. He almost spat out a mouthful of blood. Wang Ming could only endure it. He hurriedly circulated the dragon elephant sacred scroll, and only then did his churning blood and qi calm down a little. However, the wound that had opened up once again was bleeding non-stop. It was even more difficult to heal it again. Heh, this is it. Invulnerable to blades and spears, invulnerable to water and fire. Not bad, not bad. I've finally seen it for myself today. In the end, Lin Bai wasn't stingy with his praise. But when Wang Ming heard these words of praise, they sounded like mockery no matter how he looked at it. However, Wang Ming was overwhelmed with shock right now. He didn't hear those words at all. In Wang Ming's eyes, beastmasters and martial artists were like fish in bear's paws. They couldn't have it both ways. However, right now, there was a person who could have it both ways in front of him. He had 3 spirit beasts that could contend with him, and his own strength was even more terrifying. Although he had only taken 1 kick from Lin Bai, the experienced Wang Ming could tell that Lin Bai's own strength wasn't much weaker than his. Is this why the city lord and the others are so afraid of Lin Bai? He really is a demon. Wang Ming's mind, which had been muddled by the battle, calmed down at this moment. Wang Ming's expression became serious. He reached out a hand and caressed the wound on his left chest. The scarlet wound stopped bleeding, but the healing speed was much slower than before. Maniac. These 2 words came out of Fatty's mouth. For a moment, he didn't know whether to call Lin Bai a maniac or Wang Ming a maniac. I'm not on the wrong side. This Lin Bai will definitely become famous and become a saint in the future. The thin man muttered to himself, his eyes absent-minded. He was glad that he was on Lin Bai's side, and he was determined to maintain a good relationship with Lin Bai in the future and become a good lackey. Beastmaster and fighter dual cultivation. Just thinking about it made the thin man feel terrified. Bai she returned to the courtyard anxiously. When she saw the ruins of the courtyard, she was stunned for a moment. But when she saw Lin Bai using all his strength, she heaved a sigh of relief. She noticed the commotion in the courtyard and was worried that if this continued, even spirit tools wouldn't be able to cover up the commotion here. He had originally wanted to tell Lin Bai about this, but seeing that Lin Bai had also noticed this, he felt relieved. Wang Ming had just stopped the blood from his wound. He exerted force with his feet, and the ground beneath his feet sank deeply. His body was like an elephant crashing into Lin Bai. Even if you are a martial arts cultivator, Your physique might not necessarily be tough. Wang Ming had a moment of timidity before, but he quickly dispelled it. A tough attack did not mean a tough defense. Boom. Wang Ming felt the scorching heat on his back. He did not need to turn around to feel that there was a ball of flame sweeping over. The temperature of this flame was even higher than before. Before it could reach him, Wang Ming felt that the ground under his feet was already starting to heat up. Humph! Wang Ming snorted coldly. His body flashed, wanting to dodge the flame and crash into Lin Bai. However, just as he took 2 steps forward, he felt a restriction restricting his movements. Go to hell. Lin Bai sneered. His body was like a ghost, his aura surging as he thrust his palm toward Wang Ming's neck. This attack seemed to cut through the air. Damn it! Wang Ming's expression changed drastically. Little Red's fireball was behind him, his body was under Little Green's control, and Lin Bai's attack was right in front of him. This is really... At this moment, he truly felt the terror of cultivating as both beastmaster and martial artist. At the same time, he was a little glad that the only person who could do this was Lin Bai. If everyone was like this, why would he still be alive? He could just die. Roar. The dragon elephant behind Wang Ming let out a furious roar, crazily twisting its body. The light from the dragon elephant's body enveloped Wang Ming's body, and in the end, the light slowly diminished, like an armor floating not far from Wang Ming's body. On this ball of armor-like light, there were also the same patterns on Wang Ming's body. Bang! The light from Wang Ming's body exploded, breaking through Little Green's imprisonment. It dispersed Little Red's fireball and also stopped Lin Bai's attack. Fatty and Skinny looked at the scene in front of them. They did not know what to say anymore. Their actions kept changing rapidly. They had no idea what was going to happen next. Whoosh! At this moment, the sound of air being torn apart could be heard. Poochie! Following that, the sound of sharp claws cutting through flesh and causing one's scalp to go numb could be heard. Blood gushed out from Wang Ming's left arm, and his flesh was cut open. One could see the dense white bones within, and blood was gushing out like water. After Little Black's attack, it retreated and waved its claws at Wang Ming. Even if it was a one-on-one fight, I'm not afraid. Wang Ming was barely able to block 3 attacks by himself, but he still couldn't block the 4th one. Wang Ming's face turned pale, and his body shrank little, becoming as tall as before. Fatty, where are you? The skinny man looked left and right, but he realized that the fatty had disappeared without a trace. Wang Ming's physical body began to shrink and gradually withered away. The aura of a wild beast that emanated from his entire body also gradually faded away. The dragon and elephant projection behind his head also began to flicker as though it would fade away at any moment. However, Wang Ming's pair of large and stunning eyes were gradually filled with blood capillaries that turned scarlet red. He glared at Lin Bai like a blade, as if he wanted to use his gaze to slice Lin Bai into 1,000 pieces. However, as Wang Ming's body withered, the arm on his hand gradually grew new tender flesh. The thick white bones were also covered by the tender flesh, and the skin at the edge of the wound also began to grow and extend. Seeing this, Lin Bai's eyes lit up. The Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll not only allowed the physical body to break through the limits, allowing each attack to use the power of the dragon and elephant. What made Lin Bai even more interested was the abnormal self-healing ability of the Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll. Lin Bai did not pay much attention to the small wounds that had healed previously, but Little Black had just nearly chopped off Wang Ming's arm. His entire arm was connected by a bit of skin and flesh, yet such a serious injury was actually able to heal. A cultivation technique with such a terrifying self-healing ability might not even exist in some great aristocratic families or great sects. Huff! Wang Ming let out a long breath of turbid air. This turbid air had just been let out when it was accompanied by a white mist. The space around the mist was slightly distorted, showing how high the temperature of this turbid air was. Wang Ming's eyes were fixed on Lin Bai. He had used a cultivation technique to heal his arm. Otherwise, this arm of his would be crippled if he dragged it on. However, the price for doing so was that Wang Ming would not be able to use the Dragon Elephant Sacred Scroll for a few days, and his body was extremely weak at this moment. He came to find Lin Bai with the belief that he would definitely win, but he did not expect to end up in this situation. If he continued to fight, then his end would be very clear. Little Black, stop him, Lin Bai shouted. For just a moment, Lin Bai saw Wang Ming's eyes that were filled with hatred become absent-minded, so he hurriedly called out to Little Black, "Don't even think about stopping me." Wang Ming shouted loudly and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood essence from his mouth. Immediately, his body was enveloped in a blood mist. Once the blood mist appeared, the dragon elephant behind Wang Ming appeared once again. His body expanded once again, and it was much larger than before. Little Black and Little Green hurriedly flashed in front of Wang Ming. They wanted to control Wang Ming's movements, while Little Red circled high in the sky, looking for an opportunity to block Wang Ming's escape route. Roar! The dragon elephant behind Wang Ming let out a low roar, and an ancient aura spread out in all directions. It was simple yet solemn. Little Black and the other two little beasts felt as if a huge mountain was pressing down on them, and it was extremely difficult for them to breathe. The skinny man was just about to look for Fatty when he heard this sudden growl. His eyes nearly went black, and he fell to the ground. His heart thumped like it was about to jump out of his chest, but she jumped far back, wanting to get away from the center of the courtyard. However, she had only taken 2 steps back when she felt a slap coming from behind him. "Who is it?" But she was so shocked that she was covered in sweat. She hurriedly dodged, but she managed to dodge this attack. Along with the intense pain coming from her back, but she spat out a mouthful of blood. Her mind went blank, and she fainted. After Wang Ming burned his blood essence and activated his life-saving secret skill, his strength increased greatly, and he was much stronger than before. However, the price for doing so was the extremely precious blood essence. Once he activated this secret skill, he would need to rest for the next half a year, and his body would be extremely weak. If too much blood essence was burned, it might even cause one's cultivation to drop irreparably. Even worse, one might die on the spot. Sand and stones rolled down, and dust flew into the air. Even tree branches were broken by Wang Ming's imposing manner. Wang Ming took a step forward, and the surrounding ground seemed to have been pushed away by a powerful invisible force, and depressions spread out in all directions. Don't even think about stopping me. If I live, there are still possibilities for everything. I, Wang Ming, will remember today's grudge. Wang Ming slanted his body and moved like lightning. He arrived between Little Green and Little Black and pulled out his right leg with all his might towards Little Black. The 4 fingers of his left hand were joined together, and he mercilessly chopped towards Little Green. This attack was like a sharp hand knife, flashing with a cold light as if it was a real weapon. Bang! Wang Ming's speed was too fast, and Wang Ming's strength was too strong. Even though Little Green and Little Black were 1 step ahead and had predicted Wang Ming's movements, they were still unable to block this attack and were forced to retreat far away. On Little Black's jet black shell, there was even a trace left behind. Boom! Little Red took the opportunity to throw a fireball at Wang Ming. This fireball was extremely hot, and it flickered with a dazzling light that made people unable to look directly at it. The surrounding courtyard was illuminated as if it was daytime. Humph! Wang Ming waved his hand fiercely. The fireball that seemed to burn everything in the world was scattered by Wang Ming's hand and landed in various parts of the courtyard. Wang Ming's hand that reached into the fireball was still intact. The situation changed rapidly. Wang Ming, who was originally at a disadvantage, relied on burning his blood essence to gain the upper hand. Even so, Wang Ming was not immersed in the pleasure of having the upper hand. He clearly knew what the consequences would be if he continued to burn his blood essence. Therefore, after shaking off Little Black and Little Green, and steadily receiving Little Red's attack, Wang Ming's feet suddenly stepped on the ground. His body seemed to fly high into the sky, wanting to escape this courtyard. In the future, Wang Ming, who was high in the sky, revealed a look of joy on his face as he looked at Lin Bai, who was on the ground. But in the next second, the smile on his face froze, and Lin Bai couldn't be seen in the courtyard at all. Boom! A scorching heat attacked once again. Wang Ming felt his entire body burning even though he was far away. You still want to use the same move on me a second time? You guys are looking down on me too much. Wang Ming sneered again and again. He also stretched out an arm and waved it forcefully at the incoming fireball. The fireball spread out once again and fell into the courtyard like a meteor. I don't need to use the same move a second time. I know it too. The fireball that made people unable to open their eyes spread out. However, a figure appeared on the other side of the fireball. The corners of that person's mouth curled up slightly, and a harmless smile hung on his face. However, the attack that was aimed at Wang Ming seemed to be about to cut through the sky and cut through everything in the world. The two formed a strong contrast. It's over. Wang Ming leaped high in the sky. He did not have any point to exert his strength, so he could not change the direction of his body. He could only place his hands in front of his body, intending to use his physical body to take this attack head-on. However, Wang Ming knew clearly in his heart how terrifying Lin Bai's attack was. If he took this attack, he would definitely be heavily injured. Whoosh! Just as Wang Ming almost fell into despair, he saw a cold light coming from the corner of his eyes. When Wang Ming saw the cold light, he first fell into panic, then he was at a loss. Finally, his face revealed a look of joy and fanaticism. What? Lin Bai relied on Little Red's help to charge towards Wang Ming in the sky. He also threw a fierce palm blade towards Wang Ming's body. However, just as Lin Bai's palm blade was about to hit Wang Ming's body, he felt a cold ray of light with killing intent tearing through the night sky and attacking him. If he allowed the palm blade to hit Wang Ming, then Lin Bai would not be able to avoid this cold ray of light. If he avoided the cold light, then he would undoubtedly allow Wang Ming to escape. Lin Bai did not want to let such an enemy go. He would not do such an action of letting the tiger return to the mountain. Little Red. Lin Bai shouted softly. Just by calling Little Red's name, Little Red quickly understood what Lin Bai meant. It opened its mouth and spat out a stream of hot breath towards the cold light that was rapidly approaching. This stream of hot breath only stopped the cold light for a moment. However, what Lin Bai needed was this short moment. He brandished his hand knife and moved his entire body, gathering all the spiritual power in his body onto his right arm and attacked. Wang Ming's expression of having narrowly escaped death froze. The joy he felt after seeing the cold light attack disappeared. He had been certain that Lin Bai would give up on attacking and avoid the cold ray of light. This period of time could be used to escape. As long as he left this courtyard, Wang Ming was 100% confident that Lin Bai would never be able to find him again. After that, Wang Ming would have to bear today's humiliation and recover his strength. He would take Lin Bai's life in the future. However, he had never expected this scene before him. Wang Ming gritted his teeth and the muscles on his two folded arms tightened. The dragon elephant behind him became semi-solid. The light from the dragon elephant shone on his arms. This light shone on Wang Ming's body and gave him an ancient charm. This was Wang Ming's strongest defense. Bang! The palm blade collided with his arm, producing a deafening sound. Crack! The sound of bones breaking rang out, causing one's hair to stand on end. Wang Ming howled in pain. His body was like a cannonball, smashing straight into the ground and landing heavily on the floor, causing the entire courtyard to shake. In the hole created by the impact, Wang Ming opened his bloodshot eyes. His entire body was dyed in red blood, and he did not move at all. The dragon elephant also disappeared into the darkness. Whoosh! After the successful attack, Lin Bai did not have the chance to relax. The cold light broke through the heat wave and charged at Lin Bai with a scorching fire. At this moment, Lin Bai finally saw clearly that this cold light was a small, sharp, and dazzling dagger. The dagger was as thin as paper, and its entire body was emitting a biting cold light. It cut through the night sky as if it wanted to pierce through everything. Lin Bai let his spiritual power rush to his fingertips, and his index and middle fingers were pressed together. His gaze was fixed on the incoming dagger, and he slowly extended his hand to stab at one. Ding! The metal collided, and a clear sound rang out. Lin Bai took the opportunity to hit the side of the dagger, forcibly causing the trajectory of the dagger to deviate. But even so, the clothes on Lin Bai's left side were also cut open. Phew! Lin Bai let out a huge sigh of relief. He had just focused all his attention and reached the peak of his spiritual power control, allowing the dagger to wrap around 2 fingers. Otherwise, if he were to act rashly, the missile would not be able to shift the trajectory of the dagger and would even cripple the 2 fingers. Fatty, what are you doing? Just as Lin Bai was about to look at the courtyard and examine the situation around him, he heard the skinny man's voice filled with shock and anger in the courtyard. Lin Bai looked down. On top of a pile of ruins, Fatty raised his head to look at him. His eyes were cold and filled with killing intent. There was a person lying next to Fatty, not moving at all. It was Bai Shi. Fatty, what are you doing? The skinny man had noticed that Fatty was missing not long ago. When Lin Bai and Wang Ming were fighting, he had also been searching for him. However, he had never expected that during the intense battle between Wang Ming and Lin Bai, Fatty would sneak up on Bai Shi. Just as Lin Bai was about to make his final attack on Wang Ming, Fatty threw a dagger at Lin Bai and stabbed him. Fatty's move, Fatty's dagger, was filled with a biting cold killing intent that caused people to tremble. It was filled with a thick stench of blood. The thin man had never seen Fatty use such a move before. At this moment, the Fatty in front of him still had a big belly. His face was simple and honest, but for some reason, the thin man felt that the Fatty was very unfamiliar. Cough, cough. Bai Shi spat out a mouthful of blood and started coughing violently. He placed one hand on the ground and lay down slightly. His other hand trembled as he pointed at the sky. Run. Bai Shi struggled to speak as he forced himself to stand up. Lin Bai and the thin man were both shocked. They seemed to have recalled something as they raised their heads to look at the night sky. In the middle of the sky above the courtyard, the sun, moon, and stars that were originally covered by a layer of gauze appeared once again bit by bit. Silver-white light scattered into the courtyard once again. The surrounding courtyard and the lights in the distance also cast over a weak light. Bai Shi's spirit tool had lost its effectiveness. You only discovered it now? You guys are really stupid. The corners of Fatty's mouth curled up. His tone was no longer as simple and honest as before. Instead, it was filled with the joy of pushing people into a trap. Fatty, when did you betray us? Why did you do all this? The thin man's heart was filled with shock and anger. He did not know when Fatty had started to betray them. He two of us have been through thick and thin all the way to have today's achievements. Why did you do all this? Our achievements today? Hee hee, what a huge joke. Fatty laughed out loud, but his laughter was filled with ridicule. What achievements do we have? We haven't made any progress in our cultivation for so many years. At this moment, Lin Bai landed on the ground. Fatty immediately pulled a sufficient distance away from Lin Bai. Lin Bai originally wanted to chase after him, but when he saw Bai Shi coughing up blood, he could only take care of Bai Shi first. Cough, cough. Bai Shi's front chest had long been dyed red by the blood, and her face was pale. It's best to leave now. If the city lord and the others come, our plan will fall through. Don't speak. Eat this. Lin Bai took out a pill and let Bai Shi consume it. Bai Shi's injuries weren't fatal, but they couldn't be delayed, or else it would become even more serious. You guys discovered it too late, too late? Fatty looked coldly at the 3 people in front of him. I've already used my communication tube to inform the city lord. This courtyard has long been surrounded by the city lord's subordinates. You guys won't be able to escape. Great Demon Lin Bai is in the courtyard. Brothers, let's all go. To eliminate harm for the people and save the common people, it's up to us. Demon Lin Bai, if you have the guts to be a demon, then don't run. Surrender your life. Demon, I let you escape a few days ago. Don't even think about escaping today. If I, Yin, let you escape again today, how will I have the face to see the common people? People's shouts and curses came from all around the courtyard. There was also the sound of metal clashing as they picked up their weapons and ran. The originally quiet capital, the originally quiet night, was suddenly filled with shouts, curses, and the sound of weapons clashing against each other. The entire courtyard was illuminated by the torches held by the people who had come to capture Lin Bai. Fatty, you. The thin man's face was filled with anger, and his eyes were filled with confusion, grief, and anger. He stood up, grabbed the dagger, and stabbed at the Fatty. The thin man was furious to the extreme, and he was no longer as cautious as before. He attacked head-on, and his body's speed was pushed to the limit, leaving behind many black shadows. He and the fatty had gone through many life-and-death situations, and they had endured many hardships. However, the thin man had never thought that the fatty would betray him now. Humph! The fatty looked at the angry skinny man with a disdainful smile. Do you think I'm still the same as I was before? Do you know what the city lord gave me? Do you know what kind of fortune the city lord gave me? The fatty stood where he was and took a step forward. But at this moment, the skinny man was already in front of him. His eyes seemed like they were about to spit fire. He turned his body and kicked out. It's useless. Fatty stretched out his right hand and blocked the skinny man's leg cleanly. There was still a calm smile on his face. Why on earth? The skinny man's kick was blocked,